Hi, I'm Joe DiMatteo, pharmacist, clinical nutritionist, doctor of naturopathy medicine, co-host of the Len and Joe Ask the Pharmacist radio broadcast heard nationwide, coast to coast, XM satellite, Sirius satellite, and in some local stations around the country, Pittsburgh, Cleveland area, Boston, Atlanta as well. Thanks for tuning in with us today. This is a follow-up to a previous airing that we did regarding some of the traditional approaches to osteoporosis and actually then some of the downsides. So we focused on the negatives, if you will. Not that I wanted to be negative, but areas that you need to be concerned with, the class of medications, bisphosphonates that are used to build bone. So what were the problems with those? We discussed those in this part one, our osteoporosis traditional approaches. This time I need to give you what are your non-traditional approaches, what are your naturopathic approaches. A recent literature piece just yesterday, now released by the FDA, saying they're going to re-examine now even the possibility that the bisphosphonates, this class of medications, Actonels, Bonivas, Fosamaxes, and I'm getting negative again, the link possibly between esophageal cancers. Some of the literature saying it does, some of it saying, well, not really. But nonetheless, now the FDA is saying we're going to re-examine that whole issue. Maybe there is something to it. We're not just going to take in industry information. We'll do an analysis of it. Not that that comforts me in a major way, but and I don't want to be sarcastic, but it comes up again. I tell you, in our radio show, we sometimes won't even have to look for the information. The information finds us when we look at the downside. So let's get off of that issue and that subject. Let's talk about what your naturopathic approaches are. First of all, let's understand that with the aging process, we lose bone. Let's understand that what's really important is what we deposit with bone in our bones as we're forming. So your youngsters now, your young daughters and your boys as well, at 6 and 7 and 8 and 16 and 17 years of age, how much soda they drink, how much sugar they consume, how poor their diet is. They don't eat vegetables, they don't eat fruit. They unfortunately are contributing to a small depository towards their bone. They're not putting any money in the bank, so to speak. Therefore, they will be at a higher risk for bone loss as they age. Okay, so let's go over to the aging process. When I age, osteoporosis becomes more of an issue with inflammation, because with the aging process, typically I will produce more inflammation. Inflammation, kind of scary thought, but melts bones. Inflammation, immunity is associated with bone loss. Aging obviously is associated with bone loss. Genetics, if you have a genetic disposition, hormonal loss, all lead to this. But now let's get into the real approaches. Acid-alkaline balance. What does that mean? If I have a diet that is more alkaline forming, that means that I will be in a better position to make bone. Why? I'll be in a better position, part B, to maintain bone. Because the more acidic I am, your body must pull minerals from storage to buffer and make a pH neutral state in my serum and also in my tissues. So I will leach minerals to maintain a balance in the rest of my system. Typically, most Americans are acidic. Wrong beverages, too much caffeine, too much soda, too much red meat, too much dairy, too much sugar, all acid forming. Alkaline forming foods would be more vegetables, more fruits, more minerals, right types of fats, lowers inflammation, alkalinizes you. Let's go into another couple areas. The importance of resistance training. We must get to the point where we realize women must exercise. And I don't think you have to become a triathlete and you don't have to start using free weights, but understand that resistance and upper body type resistance training will help to stimulate bone. You will not find, unless there's some metabolic defect that is serious, you will not find a weightlifter or bodybuilder that has osteoporosis, male or female. Why? Because as we create resistance, we stimulate bone to be bone trophic or to encourage bone building. Talked about genetics. We talked a lot about that in the first airing that we did on osteoporosis, so I'm not going to kind of go back there. That certainly plays a role. I've mentioned sodas, I've mentioned caffeine, I've mentioned smoking, all play a huge role. So we need to reduce that so that I don't acidify the body. Caffeine is a problem because it acts as a diuretic. With diuresis, with pulling fluids out, I correspondingly will pull minerals out because that's how the process works. So I will release, and through urine and elimination, I will lose a lot of fluids, minerals. Problematic. Now let's get into bone building nutrients. The media, medicine, science has told you calcium, 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 1,500 milligrams a day. Recent literature just recently comes out and says, well, if you have virtually no calcium intake, that'll definitely damage your bones. If you add some calcium, your bones are better. But when you compare 4 quintiles, the lowest quintile to the highest quintile, when you get into the second, the third, and the fourth quintile, in other words, higher ranges, you don't build more bone. So more calcium is not the answer. What we really find is the answer is a synergism of nutrients. You have to have adequate magnesium to balance your calcium. The right forms of calcium and magnesium. Ionized, fully ionized forms. Fully bioavailable forms. Not just magnesium gluconates, not magnesium sulfates, not magnesium chlorides. I'm talking cell cycle aspartate-based intermediates that your body immediately recognizes, has full bioavailability, and has the ability to absorb 100%. Most preps are not like that. The other area is to understand that there's a lot of trace nutrients. I think that most folks regarding bone health and osteoporosis have been sold a bill of goods, that it's all about calcium. And for years they told you that vitamin D was toxic, which was nonsense. And Lynn and I have discussed that since 2004. But you've got to have adequate levels of vitamin K. We've got to have boron. We've got to have strontium. We've got to have silicon. I mean, there are certain nutrients that you must have as part of a comprehensive bone building product. It's not about 1,500 milligrams a day of calcium. It's not about more dairy, contrary to popular belief, because dairy makes you very acid forming. You've got to have this synergism of nutrients to build bone. Iproflavones, ostevone, is also another nutrient that can be very, very helpful. Literature documenting that it helps to build bone. Strontium, as I mentioned, a key nutrient, key mineral. Strontium in and of itself won't build bone. But when synergized with all of this cascade that I just mentioned, you will build bone. The other area that I think we need to look at today that is unrecognized, that is untapped, especially in women, the level of DHEA that she may have. Why? Because DHEA in and of itself, literature does not document that it builds bone. But once again, when you synergize it with a bone-building protocol, nutrients, exercise, not just calcium, 1,500 milligrams, and a little bit of D, you've got to have DHEA that follows in suit with these other nutrients. I believe your vitamin D levels, 25 OHD levels, should be done. You need to know what that number is. D is not only immune supportive. I can go on. I'll do airings on vitamin D alone as well. But for bone health, it's critical to bone health. Also, understanding the role of the potential for celiac disease and gluten intolerance playing a huge role here as well. So, what am I saying here about bone health? Am I saying that you should never use a bisphosphonate? I mean, I think that's for you to decide. If you listen to our previous airing, you make up your mind. Spontaneous femur fractures, atrial fibrillation rates that go up. Now, maybe the link to esophageal cancers, bone pain that's unexplained, skeletal muscle pain unexplained. We need to have women on a comprehensive protocol. We need to know that it's not one nutrient. It certainly is not one pharmaceutical. It's a synergism of nutrients. It's not just calcium. And then even what is the type of calcium? Why we've designed preps and products, and we're in the process of redesigning our products right now. We're reformulating them right now to bring the maximal benefit. It's synergism. It's a broad depth of nutrients. That may sound overwhelming. You may have to take all these individually. No, we've put them pretty much synergistically into one, except for the vitamin D. Folks, we're out of time on this airing again. Osteoporosis Part 2. You can reach us at lenandjoe.com or at our toll-free number 877-275-7743. Have a great day.